Hello listeners, Jordan here. I just want to let you know that you can listen to Nighttime early and ad-free on Amazon Music. Include it with Prime.
You are listening to the Nighttime Podcast.
Hello listeners, and welcome to the next installment of Nighttime's listener-contributed Encounters with Creeps series. If you're new to this series, I'm Jordan, and a couple years back I asked listeners of Nighttime to share with me their stories of creepy people. And your stories, they continue to freak out my inbox. In this episode, we're going to dive into the 23rd volume of your stories of unsettling encounters with creepy people. During this episode, Madelayne Klein and I are going to hear about a creep who tried to arrange a private concert, a creep who mentioned yogurt, a creep who was getting an international license, and a whole bunch more. So buckle up and welcome to yet another volume of your Encounters with Creeps. Ms. Madelayne Klein, it is Encounters with Creeps, volume 23. What does that say about the world?
Nothing good.
For people new to the series, Encounters with Creeps is a series in which Madelayne and I hear your encounters with real-life creeps, and tonight we got some doozies. Before we get into it, I want to play one voicemail from a listener. If you recall, in volume 22 of this series, we asked listeners how many episodes they would want, what frequency of episodes of Encounters with Creeps would they like to hear. I just want to play one voicemail because we received a lot of messages from people weighing in on that question. Here's one answer. And this is anonymous, not because it's salacious, just because they didn't put their name.
Hi guys, you wanted to know how often listeners would like to listen to the Encounters with Creeps episodes. I think as many as you put out, I will listen to, so one a week, one every couple of days. However you want, if you post it, I will gladly listen to it. I think they are fantastic. So that's my quick message. Okay, bye.
That makes it easy, right? However many you want.
Absolutely. I feel like Encounters with Creeps, it's like it doesn't get old.
Mm-hmm.
It like the novelty doesn't wear off. It's like reading drama on Facebook that has nothing to do with you.
That is exactly what it's like.
You can't stop, and it's so entertaining.
Yeah, and there's just so many, and the reason we asked how many of these episodes, or the frequency of these episodes that we should release, is I have an overflowing bucket of creep encounters from all over the world that we need to get through, and it's just a question of how quickly we tear through them. As that listener said, I guess we'll just do it as often as we feel like.
I like that. Well,
yeah.
And just with both of our lives, it's so hard to get any sort of consistency down for this series.
Yeah,
so
it makes it tough. But that said, let's get into it. We'll start with whatever the opposite of a palate cleanser is. I want to share with you the story of a creep in the news, a very horrifying, troubling creep who's probably too high up on the creep scale than what we would normally cover here, but I want to share this story. This is about a creepy kid who's in the news in London, Ontario. I don't know if you've seen this story going around, but let me play it for you. And a bit of a warning. I don't usually give trigger warnings, but this one does involve harm to a cat. The worst kind of harm.
Pups frolic and play alongside their owners at a city dog park. Watching their antics is Animal Alliance of Canada board member Vicky Van Linden.
These animals are the lucky ones. They have guardians who care about them.
But as we all know, not all pets are as fortunate. This may be one such case. It is a social media post appearing to show the abuse of a domestic cat. Its contents have sparked public outrage and police comment. In the video, a person is seen throwing a lifeless cat on a bed. They later show the animal to the camera, hang it upside down, and perform violent compressions. At another point, the person appears to be smiling. London police acknowledge officers have received multiple inquiries about what appears to be a cat abuse video posted online.
Members of the London Police Service are aware of videos and social media posts circulating online. Now, under provisions of the Youth Criminal Justice Act, there's nothing additional that we're able to share at this time.
Further, in response to the high level of public interest in this case, police warned online that any personal acts of retribution could result in criminal charges. But as police work to protect people and animals, Van Linden worries about the societal impact of online animal abuse.
Social media has really unleashed this. Really, there are reports of this happening all around the world.
Van Linden suggests any video showing intentional animal cruelty should raise alarm. She points to cases where pets have been harmed by perpetrators who eventually hurt people.
We know that Luca Magnotta, who later went on to kill and dismember, abused and killed a kitten online long before that murder of a human took place.
I don't even know if that's a creep. That's just evil.
That is evil. And I don't know if you noticed this within the video, within that news clip, the police officer cited an inability to share details due to the Youth Criminal Justice Act. So this is a kid who was doing this. A kid published a video of them abusing what's probably like a family cat or something and put it up online for the world and their community to see. I believe their face and everything was exposed. So could you imagine, the people in the community who go to school with this kid, who know what they like, who knows what they did? Like it's such a glaring red flag for future problems for everybody. I would want nothing to do with this person existing in my community.
No, and I don't know. Like, we obviously don't know much about this situation, but there's something wrong with his home life. There's lots of past trauma.
Something wrong with a lot of things. I don't think, I get why people would break the law, steal, do, antisocial things, but the person who can abuse an animal, especially a cat, I just don't think there's any healing that. Maybe there's treating it like a life of psychologists and medication could maybe prevent them from taking that next step, but you can't change the mind of someone who's able to do that. And in my mind, I'm like, I hope I'm an empathetic person, but in some cases I'm like, throw away the key. And when it comes to like killing a animal or a cat and abusing it in a YouTube video or something, man, throw away the key.
And it's abusing an animal just on its own is absolutely terrible, but like to live stream it and be so proud of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This is why I support street justice.
Oh, don't go there.
No? Okay.
No. The purpose of airing that story is for one, it's a very creepy news story. But like you said, maybe that's not a creep. So we can use this story as a bit of a barometer for how far we like to go with our creep encounters. We like, as you put it once before, we like trauma with a lowercase t. So we're looking for the creeps that don't go as far as the person we heard in this story, but they went far enough to justify a listener sharing their story with us. So we're looking for the signs and the red flags, but we're not looking for the actual abduction or horrific thing that every so often will come out of these stories. So I'm ready to jump right into them if you are.
Oh, I'm ready to go.
Okay, let's get into, I'll try to break these down into themes. I don't necessarily have themes yet, but I think as we listen to them, maybe we'll find some trends within these stories because there are a lot of similarities. We'll have a quick ad break, and then we'll get into the first batch of listener-contributed encounters with creeps. Madelayne, are you a big yogurt eater?
I wouldn't say big. Like, I enjoy it.
Greek yogurt or regular yogurt?
Either works.
Okay, I've always liked regular yogurt, but once I tried Greek yogurt for the first time, I was like, I will never go back. This stuff is so much better than the yogurt I've been eating for the last, 30 years of my life. I love yogurt, and I love Greek yogurt especially. But after this story that involves Marissa's awkward yogurt experience, it may change my eating habits a little bit in the future. We'll see. This one, Marissa shares the story because it reminded her of, you remember in Creep Encounters 22, we heard about the hostel in Amsterdam and the drunk guy came in and jumped in bed with the girl. Marissa had a yogurt experience that kind of reminds her of that story a little bit. So let's just listen to it.
I'm so intrigued.
Here it comes.
Hi, this is Marissa calling from the States. I just listened to the latest volume of Encounters with Creeps, and the Amsterdam story reminded me of something that happened to me many years ago, and it begs the question of, was the person drunk or was he a creep? Anyway, I was attending college in New England, and I used to take the train a lot, when I would visit home. Anyway, I just remember being on the train, and I went to the snack car. I remember it was at night. It was definitely dark outside. Anyway, so I went into the snack car, and there was a man standing there who was obviously very inebriated. I think he was holding a drink at the time, and it looked like it was not his first drink of the night. So, I kind of just didn't pay him any attention, and I proceeded to place my order for a snack. And I wouldn't even remember what I ordered except for the fact of this man and what he said. Because of him, I remember that I ordered yogurt of all things. Anyway, all of a sudden, he just chimed in with, "Wow, you look a little bit like Cindy Crawford. Now, can you do me a favor and ask for that yogurt again, but ask for it the way Cindy Crawford would ask for it? I want you to say, 'Can I please have a yogurt?' Yeah, say it like that." So I just was standing there so mortified. First of all, because he was saying this in front of, the person that worked at the concession stand, or whatever you call it. And also because I was kind of a little bit nervous at the prospect of being trapped on a train with this person. So I just, I think I just got out of there because I don't even remember eating the yogurt. I don't think I got any food in the snack car. I just kind of went back to my seat, hoping for the rest of the ride that I wouldn't see the guy again. And I don't believe that I did. Anyway, so I guess you could say he was just drunk. But I don't know. There was definitely a creepy overtone to the encounter, in my opinion. Anyway, thanks for listening. Take care. Bye.
Drunk or not, that's a creepy thing to do, to ask someone to ask for that yogurt again, like Cindy Crawford. It's not like Cindy Crawford had a unique voice. She was just a supermodel, right?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. I was like, is there something about Cindy Crawford that everyone else knows about that I don't?
I thought the same
Like,
thing. I was like, did she like maybe do a yogurt commercial or something? No, I could find no connection between Cindy Crawford and yogurt or Cindy Crawford and a unique voice. I think this man probably had a few too many drinks and just wanted to see a pretty lady order yogurt. And if that is his weird fetish, my God, what a strange
a
thing for
Cindy
her.
Crawford yogurt fetish.
I've heard stranger. That might as well be that.
I guess.
Yogurt is kind of an uncomfortable food to have a fetish surrounding. It reminds me, like, there's some foods that I consider very personal, meaning like I only like to eat them if I open the container and do it myself. One food that I'm like that with is eggs.
Okay.
I'll never order eggs out, but I love eggs. I just don't like them if anyone else has anything to do with it. I want to like crack the egg and cook it myself.
Huh.
If I'm at a restaurant and I'm served eggs, I'm like, no, thank you.
Really?
And I'm the same with yogurt. I wouldn't want, if I went to your house, there would be no chance I would eat any of your yogurt or accept eggs from you.
Interesting. Yogurt I can see, but eggs, really, that kind of baffles me. It's got like a protective shell.
I know, but it's something about the consistency and the mushiness of it. I don't know. I'm not cool with other people's eggs or yogurt. And and maybe that's why I have something within me, the opposite of a yogurt fetish, that this story just strikes me as odd.
Oh, it is. And can we normalize not using alcohol as an excuse to being like
Mhm.
weird and creepy?
I think what it is just a magnifying glass.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
You're right.
So his inner creep just was exposed thanks to the alcohol removed that protective covering, that protective shell like an egg would have. And we saw the hideous creep within as he said, "Can you ask for that yogurt again?"
Gave him a little bit too much confidence.
hmm Let's move on to another one. We got a stacked card, so we're just going to be ripping through it
Cool.
here. This one, ooh, maybe I should end with this one. Yeah, I'm going to save that for later. It's actually the creep encounter that inspires the cover art for this episode. If you notice the
Excellent.
picture on the front image, so I'm going to come back to that. Do you hear this?
That sounds like old fashioned.
I got a creep encounter by mail. Of all the things to get in my mailbox, I got a letter addressed to Jordan and Madelayne, and sure enough, it's a written note creep encounter. I prefer hearing their voice, but I will accept written creep encounters by mail for sure. This comes from Shannon.
I'd like to imagine that this was written with like a quill pen and it's in like cursive.
No, it's typed out and printed.
Oh.
Strange, eh? Here's what Shannon has to say. I'm just going to read it verbatim. Hi, Jordan and Madelayne. I thought I'd submit my story about an encounter with creep from when I was only 5 years old. Yes, you read that correctly. Call me old-fashioned, but I enjoy writing letters, so I decided to tell you and the listeners my story via old-fashioned mail. When I was in kindergarten, I was a student at a religious private school. My kindergarten teacher had a son who was roughly in his early 20s at the time, and he'd often visit our school from college. All the staff knew him, and he was free to roam around the campus grounds. He came to our class, and we were all introduced, and yeah, he seemed nice enough. It was during recess a few days later while watching the other kids play kickball that it happened. I was with my best friend when he came over, and he asked us if we remembered who he was. And I said, well, yeah, of course, Miss H is your mom. He smiled and then directed his eyesight towards me, where he casually caressed my cheek and proceeded to say he would see us around, but he never stopped staring at me as he walked away. The next incident was a year later when I was in the first grade as I walked past him on my way to the bathroom. Once again, he gave me that weird smile and commented on how pretty and grown up I had become over the last year. I just nervously smiled and continued walking, but that made me feel very uncomfortable. It became a little mission of mine to always be on the lookout and avoid him as much as I could. Finally, another year later when I was in the second grade, my crush and him were playing basketball as I walked by and I said hi to my crush Nelson, but he asked me why I didn't say hi to him, as I was his girlfriend, right? I thought, what? My stomach turned. I said nothing and made the decision to tell my mom everything. She did what every mother should do and immediately reached out to the headmaster to request a meeting to voice her concerns. The school administration defended him, saying he was like that with everyone. Even the older women on the staff noted he was flirtatious at times. My mom was very clear that if anything happened again that made me uncomfortable, she would pull me out of the school. And I never saw him again. A few years later, the school eventually shut its door after many people left when it came to light that the headmaster had been having an affair with the third grade teacher. Sarcastically, I was shocked. Signed, Shannon.
First, that's super on brand for like a private religious school.
Yeah, you would think, eh?
Covering up for weirdos.
Mm-hmm. My thought about it is it's an example of that those kind of like micro creep encounter things where it's, you know, you go to the guy who goes to Tim Hortons and he's a little flirty with the staff, you know, that sort of thing. But this is directed towards a kid. We're like, you know, why didn't you say hi to me? You're my girlfriend, right? Like
It's so weird.
It's so weird and creepy, but in my head, I could see that playing out.
Oh yeah, and like touching her cheek. First, this guy's like the 20-year-old son of some teacher.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you hanging around the school?
Well, the headmaster. So it's kind of like his mom like runs the place. So he's
okay, regardless. Why are you hanging around the school? Can we just address why people were pulling their kids out of a school after the headmaster was sleeping with the third grade teacher? Who cares?
Apparently. Well, this is a religious school, so maybe that's more frowned upon.
I guess.
I think, wait till they find out what's going on in public schools.
Right? Well, I mean, consenting adults it's, you know, I could see if it was like an underage student. Who cares if the staff is sleeping together? Have they ever worked at a restaurant?
Yeah. No, like I said, I would like to do a like, where are they now? And find these people who pulled their kids out of the private school and drop them into like, you know, these public schools, these underfunded public schools. How did that work out?
Totally. Well, it took me being like in my 20s and being friends with teachers that I'm like, wow, like back in the like first, second, third grade, those interns I had were probably super hungover on Thursdays and Fridays. And we're probably only like 23 when I thought they were 40.
This story that we just heard in this letter reminds me of another story we have coming. I'm going to play it now before our break. This is Anna's creepy neighbor who sexualizes kids.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Hello, Jordan and Madelayne. My name is Anna, and I am from Oklahoma in the United States. I figured I would share one of my encounters with creeps. I found out about this situation for my late sister during the time that it occurred. There are two situations with the same creep. Some backstory. We grew up on the same street as my grandma and aunt, so we would walk back and forth all the time between the houses. And this was around 1998 or 99. One of our neighbors befriended my dad. They've been friends for years, at least since he had moved in. Anyways, he reminded me of George Clooney, and because of that, I had a little crush on him. But he was probably around my dad's age. Anyways, I was around 12 or 13 years old when my sister tells me that he noticed me walking and made a comment to her about me. He said that I am developing nicely. Ew. Although my sister was only 3 years older than me, she went off on him and she told him never to look at me again. Of course, that doesn't happen with creeps. Anyways, the crush I had dissipated as soon as she told me what he said. And because of that, I felt dirty, and so I would go out of my way to avoid seeing him after that. I felt like I must have done something to garner that attention, but I was, like I said, 12 or 13. All I did was exist. Anyways, fast forward later the same year, my dad didn't know about the other incident. We didn't talk about it. As far as I know, my sister didn't say anything to him. And so these two were outside chatting, and I was either coming or going from the house. I don't remember, but he made a comment that my dad was going to need a shotgun for that one. And I know this is common for some people to say, but it is actually really unsolicited and predator behavior, in my opinion. Anyways, I appreciate your time, and I hope you enjoy my encounter with this creep. As best as possible. Bye.
I'm curious your thoughts on this one, because when you hear what he said, that's not uncommon. Like, you're going to need a shotgun to keep them away from her. I've heard stuff like that said, and I think it hits different hearing it come from her.
I have so many issues with this. So I had a baby last year, and she is a very, very pretty little girl. And I can't believe how many people sexualize even babies. They're she's gonna be trouble. Or when she's a teenager, I'm like, that's so weird to say. Oh my God.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Or things like when my boys were younger, or even now, if they have a friend who's a girl, people who will comment on that, oh, little girlfriend. And it's whoa, we don't need to go there. Chill out.
No. Or when they're she's flirting. She's being a baby.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you?
Mm-hmm. And it's so common. And I think I kind of, when I heard this story and I thought of sharing it with you tonight, I thought you were going to go there with your daughter and noticing that, because I think a lot of people wouldn't think of it or notice it until you're a parent and people are doing it to your kid. But I think that's kind of what she was going with. This guy, is he a creep, or is he just someone who just needs some filter, and maybe he doesn't realize why it's wrong to say something like that, but it's.
I think he's definitely a creep, but it's just so normalized for his generation that doesn't excuse it at all. But she's a literal child, and let's stop commenting on anyone's body, but especially a young girl.
I guess
so weird.
To say you're going to need a shotgun to keep them away from her. That's different than she's developing nicely. That is much creepier.
Oh, definitely. That's much creepier. But I still don't like the whole overprotective father kind of trope thing. Ugh.
Yeah.
Why does your dad care who you're with? Ugh.
Well, your dad's one thing, but why does the neighbor care?
Yeah.
Or why is the neighbor predicting that men are going to be sexually attracted to you?
So strange. So strange.
Let's take a quick break, then we have another collection of so strange creep encounters. Okay, we have a trio of creep encounters to end the night with. One is very short, and two are two of my favorite creep encounters we've ever heard. Let's just get the ball rolling with the short one. We'll call this Miranda's wannabe porn star in Australia. And this is going to be one of those just like, I call them like WTF stories. A creep who's just so shocking out of nowhere that it deserves mention on this show. Here's what Miranda had to deal with.
Hi, my name's Miranda and I'm from Australia. I've recently started listening to your podcast after hearing you on Morbid, and I'm really enjoying the encounter with creeps. So I'm going to share my story. So about a year ago, I started working for an insurance company in a small town. As well as like the general insurance kind of thing, we also issue international licenses for people travelling overseas so that they can drive while they're overseas. So I had a guy come up to my counter and he said he wanted an international license. Started off as a normal transaction. Then as we were getting to the end of the transaction, he said to me, he passed me a set of 6 photos so I could take a photo and glue it onto his international license. And I cut one off and then I hand him back his 5 photos and he says to me, "Oh, what am I going to do with these photos?" And then I'm like, "Oh, it's always handy to have, some extra photos. Some people like to travel with them in case they have their passport lost or stolen, all that kind of thing." And he said to me, "Do you know what?" And I said, "What?" He's like, "You should take those home and you should stick them on your bedroom wall so that when you're having sex with your husband, you can think of me." This guy was like in his 60s. I'm just 30. And that was the first time in my life I didn't know what to say. I was gobsmacked.
See what I mean? It's just like, what?
What? Why?
Why go there?
Ew.
Yeah.
Like, who says that?
Yeah, I imagine that this is someone who they just don't like an awkward silence. And maybe there was just an awkward silence and he just couldn't help but just say something. And that's what fell out of his mouth. That's how I imagine this happening.
Or he was just weird.
That is very weird.
Or like he thinks it's funny and it's just really not. Like, where's the punchline? That's not a joke.
No, it's like sexual harassment, probably.
Oh, totally. And
yeah,
gross.
Pretty disturbing. My sister worked at a photo development place once upon a time I think at a Walmart, and she had some stories, man. I feel anyone who deals with photos of the public will encounter creeps during their work. I'm sure of it.
I can only imagine some of the things she saw, because that was probably the era of disposable cameras.
Oh, hell yeah. She saw some stuff. But like in this case, to drop that kind of, if it's a joke, to drop that kind of joke at basically the DMV, come on. You got that person they have a criminal record. They have to.
Oh, absolutely. And I've started, but mind you, like she said she was like gobsmacked, and I can see why. But, when people make dumb, unfunny jokes like that, I've started to ask them, like, can you explain to me why that's funny? Like, explain to me like I'm 5. Why is that funny? Where's the punchline? And then once they really think about it, they're like, oh, shit. It's not funny. I'm just talking.
We've had several stories like that where it's just someone out of nowhere drops like a creep bomb. That's certainly one. That's a very explosive creep bomb.
What did you call it? A WTF story? I like that categorization.
Because it's just randomly, just boom, here it is. Yeah, like we've had several of those where they just shout something insane or obscene, or this is another example of that. And she had to sit there and she's probably sitting at this desk with a lineup of people and everyone's taking a number. How do you end that conversation? I would have liked to know what she said next and how, his walk out of there, I hope, was a walk of shame with a security escort.
I just wish that if anything like that happens to me, I can think on my feet and not come up with a comeback like half an hour later when he's long gone.
This is one of those experiences where at the time you're just shocked, but later on you're like, I wish I should have said that. I wish I had said this.
Totally. It's one of those things that comes to you in the shower. You're like, this is what I should have said.
Thinking on your feet's one thing, but when someone says something like that, I don't know. You're either going to be shocked or mad. Like it's going to be a fight or flight thing.
Totally. That's true.
We have two amazing stories coming.
I can't wait.
Let's go to England. We're going to stop in with Ruth. Ruth shared a story with us many volumes ago, maybe like 10 or 15 volumes ago, but she's back with another one. This is the story of Ruth's almost creepy roommate, or Ruth's creepy almost roommate. Here it comes. Let this be a warning for anyone out there who's planning to rent out a room in their house.
Sounds like a nightmare.
Hello, Jordan and Madelayne. This is a message for the Encounters with Creeps episodes. I don't know if you can beep me out, but I'm going to tell you the actual nickname I have, which is Twat Magnet, or TM for short, because I do attract them. So my story is about a potential lodger who I nearly had. I have a room to rent, and there's an app called the Spare Rooms app. So this guy was looking for a room. Ideally, I wanted a female because I live on my own, but he seemed fairly respectable. He came to look at the room. Nice guy. I felt comfortable in his company. So he was going to move in a few weeks' time. And for some reason, I Googled him. And I don't know why, because I had previously looked him up. I'd got references from him. But I Googled him again, and I put the word fraud or something, or crime, I think, just in case. I don't know why. I have a guardian angel, I think. And up came an article about him, which was a day old, so it had just hit the UK press. It was in all the newspapers. This man had been convicted of upskirting a woman while she was asleep on a mode of transport which he also was an employee of, and he was wearing the uniform. And that's all I'm going to say. So he got caught because he was dressed in his uniform. He obviously lost the job. He didn't get a prison sentence, which is a little bit upsetting. But anyway, this man was trying to find lodgings with a single woman, and it just made my blood run cold. If you've ever experienced it, it felt like the blood just left my head. It felt like from my head down to my toes went cold, almost like my blood had stopped pumping around my body, because that man nearly moved in. I tried to report it because he had given me references, which I then realised were fake, because the one from his employer, he had added one letter into the name of the company, which I won't tell you online, and changed the person's name, who was his boss, just slightly. If you'd looked it up, you might be like, oh yeah, there he is on LinkedIn. And I believe he had also faked the other references that he sent me. He told me he was married with kids. He is not. So I reported it to the Spare Rooms app. They didn't really respond. I reported it to the police because I just felt like a man who has a conviction of that kind should not be looking for lodgings with single women, because he would be in the next room while I'm sleeping, and it just makes me shudder. Like, I would never sleep again. How is this allowed? And the police were basically like, he has a right to live where he wants to live, and he has a right to his life, which I completely get. I believe he has another job now. But in my opinion, he should be looking for a house with another man, or even just live on his own. I mean, I don't know. And all I asked them to do was try and let his social worker know just that he had attempted to do that, because I don't think that should be allowed. And the messages he sent to me were very much, and I haven't got it in front of me now, I should have, but it was like, I thought things could really work out between us. I would have liked the chance to explain, because I just said to him, the room is no longer available. And I didn't engage in any of his other messages trying to explain it to me. And I've never heard from him since. Thankfully, he's moved on. But it just really affected me. I'm still looking for him out the window. I can't even imagine how people cope in a real stalking situation, because it just really freaked me out that I had a man in my house that was convicted of upskirting, and he nearly moved in. So yeah, that is my brush with a creep. Yeah.
Oh, she dodged a bullet. Good for her.
Yeah. Yeah, let's start with that aspect of it. She must have had some kind of like spider sense tingling because she decided to look this guy up.
More than once.
And when she did, she found like that fresh news article of upskirting, which is taking a photo like up somebody's dress or something. That's what upskirting is, right?
Yeah.
And he did that while working in work uniform of a sleeping woman.
Like
so
in
that is
public
like,
in broad daylight.
yeah, that's like absolute creep behavior, more than creep behavior. That's like predatory behavior. And then the idea that what he was trying to do was live with a woman who would be sleeping half the time. And he even took steps to hide his identity by, concealing the name of his boss and all that, and on these forged documents. Like, man, whether it's a social worker or a parole officer or something, someone should have known about that. This should be a big thing.
Oh, right. Well, and you just have to wonder, like, so this is the one time he got caught.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine perving around is a lot like, they say that if you ever get a DUI, the person has driven drunk like an average of 50 times before and not been caught. So like,
I believe it.
I'm pretty sure it's like comparable to perving around. Like, this is
Oh,
the only
yeah.
time he's been caught. What else has he done?
Mhm. Yeah, and he probably learns a little bit every time. I would love to know where he ended up after it didn't work out with her.
Oh, hopefully not with any woman.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine renting out my room to a stranger. I've had roommates before, but it's always been like lifelong friends, basically. I've never lived with a stranger. Have you ever done that?
I have actually. I moved in with, but they were women.
Okay.
I moved into a girl's house, and I only knew one of my other roommates. I worked with her, and you know what? I'm still friends with the one that was a stranger at the time.
Okay.
So,
well, that worked out.
Yeah,
It worked out
she was
much
one of my
better.
bridesmaids, actually.
Worked out much better for you than it did for Ruth.
Oh yeah.
You're going to notice some similarities between Ruth's story and the story that we're going to end on. This is a listener named Maddie.
Oh.
Who has, how do I set this one up? Other than to say I guess she showed up and was prepared. She's a musician. She showed up and was prepared to play at America's creepiest live performance ever, is how I'll put this. Live performance / abduction attempt is probably a better way to put it. There's going to be a lot of similarities between this story and Ruth's story because it also involves like forged documents and things of that nature. So let's just get into it here.
Crazy.
This one's a roller coaster, so buckle up. We got everything here. We have independent punk rock show kind of ideologies at play here. We have firearms. We have, oh man, you just buckle up.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Here it comes.
Hey guys, my name is Mads. New fan. Also wanted to send you one of my creep stories. Unfortunately, I've got a few. I have been a musician for a while, and when I was about 20, 21, the idea of house shows were becoming really popular. They were like these small, intimate setting shows where you'd go and perform for basically a group of friends. And they turned out to be a lot more lucrative than going to bars or breweries and playing a 4-hour set. So it was actually really enticing to play these house shows where people would pay you to play them, buy your merch, and actually listen, even if it was only a room of 20 people, So I had gotten an inquiry about a house show, but they were wanting it to be a private event, just for them and their friends. And again, that wasn't that weird. So I had them give me their name, the address, and I Zillowed the address just to be sure that the name matched who owned the house, and they did. And I did a little bit of creeping on the person, and, that's about all I could do at the time. So I let him schedule a show, and he was scheduling for 3 months out. So seemed pretty planned. And so the week of the show comes up, and I just reach out again to be sure, hey, are we still good? And he says yes. and day of the show comes up, and I try to reach out by the phone and call, and he rejects my call and just texts back and says, "Hey, I'm just clocking out of work, but I want you to know that you're going to get to the house before me, and you can just go into the backyard and set up, and I'll be there, about 20 minutes behind you." And I was not comfortable with that. That wasn't discussed. Kind of puts you in a bit of a vulnerable position to be there with like your stuff set up. It's not like you can just leave quickly if you want to, if that's the case. So I tell him that, I'm not comfortable with that. And he's like, well, I need to get tables and snacks and things before the show, and I just don't have time. So like, I'm really sorry. And I start to feel bad. And so I asked my dad if he would mind coming with me just to help me set up, meet, the guy, or just kind of let things get started. And then I told him, I was like, you can leave after that, and, give my dad any opportunity to role play Liam Neeson in the Taken movies. And he's in. So he gets in the car with me. And he's got a gun with him strapped to his waist. That's just who my dad is. I don't know what to tell you. And so we get to the place, and I notice that the grass is high, and I'm like, if I was about to have about 50 people over to my house, I probably would have mowed the lawn. And there's a red pickup truck sitting in the street running, and I can see like just barely the silhouette of 4 men in the truck. And I'm in the state of Virginia. We're one of the states where you can't have super tinted windows. So it did strike me as weird. And my dad notices it, and he's just kind of like, okay, keeping an eye. So I step out of the car, and the truck, dad sees that all of the car doors on this truck start to open. So he immediately jumps out and shows that he has a gun in the car. And he doesn't show it as in like pulls it out and waves it around. He like lifts his shirt to show the gun. In not a super obvious way. You'd have to be looking. And the guys peel out of there, like tires squealing, peel out of there. And I'm just kind of shocked at what's happening, but I just go into the backyard just to see. Like, I'm too curious. I have to see. And the grass is knee high. And it doesn't look like anyone was prepared to be in that backyard for anything good anyway. And so I'm still trying to give like the benefit of the doubt that was just something weird that happened beforehand. I just can't believe that it's happening like this. And I'm like, well, maybe it's a prank. Maybe it's like stupid people just trying to waste my time. But like 3 months is a long time to plan to just do a prank and waste someone's time. And it kind of hits me for the first time in this scenario that like I almost just got abducted, maybe. Anyway, we went to the police, made a report, nothing happened or came of it. And then we got Chick-fil-A and went home, and I stayed up all night with one of my friends because I couldn't sleep for days. And I quit music for about 8 months after that, but I did get back to it. Thanks for hearing my story.
So there's a bit more I can add to this as well, because I edited out some part of the police investigation. But just to summarize it, the phone that she was communicating with was one of those pay-as-you-go phones that you can't be traced to a specific person. And the address that she met the people at was actually the people who owned that house had been away for like weeks and had nothing to do with this. So it certainly does look like I guess an attempted abduction. And also the police, she was able to describe the truck, but they couldn't find any vehicle matching that description. So whoever this is managed to get away. And what they were planning, I don't know. I think she's right. Like, it sounds like an abduction, but she fortunately had the wherewithal to bring her father, who brought a gun.
Oh yeah, nothing good was going to happen because that's
Mm-mm.
just every aspect of that is just so strange and bizarre.
Yeah, but the fact that they would plan it like months in advance, that makes it seem credible. Like, why would you, if you were going to do some horrible thing to someone, you would think it would be like this weekend, especially if you're involving your three buddies or something. I just don't get what they were planning to do and why
Well,
they would single out like I guess it's just like a girl with an acoustic guitar and a little amp and a microphone shows up there. What are they
that
doing?
tells me that whoever planned all this, they do it all the time. And it's like some organized operation.
That's what it sounds like, right? Like, this is what works. We're going to
Oh.
find a house where that's been, we'll look for a house with a grown-in lawn. We'll find out who owns it. We'll pretend we're them on one of these burner phones and get someone we're interested in to show up. And the ploy for her is, just go in the backyard and get your stuff set up, take everything out of your car and bring it all in the backyard and just kind of stand there.
Ah, good for
And
her.
and they
For
show up in a truck with tinted windows. All four of them jump out at once. So there's no way they're jumping out like, all right, let's start the show.
yeah. No, oh, that's a weird one. And
Yeah,
yeah,
it's like,
absolutely, like there is no misunderstanding here. Nothing good was going to come from that.
mm-mm. But luckily, Mad's dad is basically like Chuck Norris or something, or Steven Seagal. He gets out of his car and just raises up his sweater to show that he has a gun on his hip.
That's by far my favorite part of the
Yeah.
story.
Well, and normally I wanted to think of this as, is maybe Mads and her dad the creeps for getting out and displaying a gun, in this normal transaction. But every
Nope.
other part of this transaction is weird. It justifies the showing of a gun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm on the side of this was an abduction attempt,
I
a
think
very
so.
like deliberately and complicatedly orchestrated one, and she's lucky to live to tell about it.
Totally. Yeah.
Uh,
I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what the outcome would have been, but she just halted her own kidnapping.
She didn't include any music. I would have liked to have went out on our talk with like some of her music. So Mads, if you're out there listening, email me something and I'll edit it into the end of this episode for future listeners. But that's it. And you'll notice as well, Madelayne, is that this story is what inspired the cover art for tonight's episode. I have a photo of an abandoned house with a woman standing in front of it with an acoustic guitar. And it's very much the image that plays out in my mind as I hear her describe the story. The only thing I didn't have is her father heroically displaying what I imagine to be like this big pistol or something.
I hope the grass is like knee high. The lawn, you have to make it really
Yeah.
long.
hmm Yeah, it's I've captured the image. You'll see.
But I just love how on brand American this story is too.
Yeah, my
The
dad brought a gun, and she's like, that's just him. Like, she's like, oh, Dad, you got your gun again.
That's just such a wild concept to me.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen in Canada.
Oh no.
You would have been abducted in Canada.
Or arrested for having your gun in public.
Yeah, that's right. Your dad would have been calling to report the abduction of his daughter. Your dad also would have been arrested for carrying a weapon, and nobody would investigate or ever find you.
Oh yeah, no.
Mm-mm.
You'd be a
No,
lost cause.
Yeah. But that is our collection of creep encounters tonight. It never ceases to amaze me. The diversity and variety and the odd little elements that find their ways into these stories forever will fascinate me. But I hope it's educational and cautionary for listeners.
Oh yeah, the spectrum's so broad. And yeah, from funny to illegal. It's never a dull moment.
Yeah, and then we also were they the creep? Were you the creep? Were they a creep, or were they drunk, or were they a drunk creep? There's a lot of unanswered questions as well coming out of it. So it's kind of like the unsettling gift that keeps giving.
I like that.
For listeners out there, though, we are going to do a whole bunch more of these episodes. So if you have a story to share it with us. And there was some talk of maybe finding creep encounters on a theme, like a strong theme, like one whole episode of Christmas-related creep encounters or Halloween-related creep encounters. Is there anything you'd like to hear? Like if we had a collection of creeps on a specific topic, do you have an idea, Madelayne?
Oh, just the Christmas genre. Like, imagine if we had a whole episode about creepy Santas.
Oh, there's definitely enough. Yeah, if there's creepy Santa stories out there, get at us right away.
That would be
If a
great.
bunch come in, we'll record like tomorrow night.
Absolutely.
I would also like to hear some Airbnb creep encounters. I know there's a lot, or like Airbnb or any short-term, let's call them short-term rental creep encounters, because I know there's a lot of them.
There's a
You kinda
ton
got-
of them out there.
In some cases, you have to deal with the hosts a little bit, or you have to deal with the person renting if you're the host. So I'd like to hear some of those stories.
Well, and I was just gonna say that the short-term rentals is good because we could hear from an array of people, from the host to the guest.
Mhm. Or from the person who lives next door to one, and maybe it's rented for like a porn shoot or something, because it's a lot of antisocial things happen in those short-term
Oh
rentals.
yeah. Oh,
All
this is gonna be good.
Yeah. So I'll leave that with the listeners of Encounters with Creeps. Surprise us for volumes 24 to 99. You keep sending them in, we'll keep making these. Madelayne, I think we've done our job here. Let's put a bow on this. Anything you want to say before we go?
Oh God, no, I don't. Surprisingly, for once in my life, I don't have much to say.
Well, let's go wash our hands and our eyeballs. Earballs, eardrums.
They don't make water hot enough.
I want to thank you for joining Madelayne and I for this episode of Nighttime. I'm going to start wrapping up this episode, but before I do, I'm going to end with some thanks. First, a huge and sincere thank you to everyone who took their time to share their creep encounters with us. These stories serve as a great reminder to keep our eyes open and our wits about us. And to any other listeners who have a story to share, we're going to be doing a whole bunch more episodes in this series, and we'd love to feature your story. You can share it with us at nighttimepodcast.com/contact. If you got something to share, go to the site now. The voice recorder is easy to use, and don't worry about mistakes or misspeak, as I'll edit before anything goes to air and make sure we're all sounding our best. We're excited to hear your story. Next, I want to give a big thanks to Madelayne for sharing another evening with me and with you, the listeners of Nighttime, and Monty Datta, who contributes to the music for this episode, and Linz from the Dystopian Simulation podcast, who provides our intro and outro voiceovers. But then lastly, but most importantly, a massive thank you goes out to each and every one of you listening, as without your interest and your support, this show would be as pointless as it would be impossible. And on the topic of support, let me thank the newest subscribers to the premium feed. Jennifer, Sheila, and Michelle, we appreciate you. And for anyone else who'd like to support the show, you can do it in a variety of ways. First of all, a premium feed subscription costs just a couple bucks a month, and that money will fund the creation of new episodes. But the premium feed will also give you those episodes 2 days early, get them to you ad-free, and give you access to a back catalog of episodes. If that sounds like something you're interested in, you can go premium at nighttimepodcast.com/subscribe. And even if you don't want to go premium, you can still support the show by sharing this episode on social media and telling all your like-minded friends to listen. Your support is very much appreciated. And until next time, take care of each other, hug your loved ones tight, and let us know if you see anything weird.
The Nighttime Podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Jordan Bonaparte.